Welcome to Rick's Corner, brought to you by Old School Labs, the brand I trust and the only one I put my name to. Use my code drasin12 on the link below.
Welcome to Rick's Corner. The man, the myth, the legend. Now on with the show.
All right, welcome to Rick's Corner. Today I have a guest that was here like how long ago?
It's been a few years now.
Yeah, Jennifer Henry, who has competed in fitness and bodybuilding and trains really hard and has always been in top shape and then training people as well. So we're going to talk about a few things that she's doing now because it's a little bit different than what she was doing. And so we had a nice lunch and talked about it. Choked down some chicken.
Quite literally, right?
Yeah, yeah. And so now let's talk about how you branched out and why.
So I was personally training and I was competing, and I found that my body wasn't necessarily agreeing with the competing. My kidneys were shutting down. I wasn't menstruating regularly. My hormones were obviously off balance because of that, or showing that my hormones were off balance, right? Just a lot of things weren't going right. I was having some cognitive issues, and I realized that the food programs that I was creating for myself, for my body to look a certain way, weren't necessarily helping my body to perform the way that it really necessarily needed to. And with an addiction background and a mental health background, an issue with mental health, I knew that it was imperative that I start listening to what my body needed and what my brain needed as far nutrient-wise. And I started focusing more on the way that food made me feel, the way that food helped me to perform mentally and physically, the way food made me feel emotionally, and the connections to that, and really finding a balance in that to make sure that I wasn't overdoing it in certain areas, not just in food, but in my life with competing. It tended to take me off balance because you have to be in such extreme shape.
Right. You're extremely smart.
It gets in my way sometimes.
No, but and you know you are. Mike, am I right?
Yeah, no, she's smart. Yeah.
Really smart, because most people would look into it that far, and food makes a huge difference. And there's those people that are emotional eaters and they eat all the wrong stuff, you know. Absolutely. And it does spill over into your life and can mess you up.
So it's interesting. One of the things that comes up a lot with my clients now, I'm more into the life coaching, transformational type coaching, to help clients not just identify their goals, but to help hold that vision for them and figure out why that goal is important. You know, oftentimes, I don't know if you've ever done this, but maybe not now, but I know for myself, I often will find myself kind of standing in front of the cupboard and gazing at the food and just trying to figure out what I wanted to eat, but I couldn't, or standing in front of the fridge with the door open and knowing I want something but not knowing what. And I realized through not only coaching but being a client of my own coaching and of other coaches, I have coaches now myself. I have a business coach and a life coach, and that, yes, we were hungry, but we weren't necessarily hungry for food, right? But we were maybe hungry for something where there's an area in our life that isn't being nourished. And that part of our life, that part of our physiological makeup is not being nourished, whether it be creativity or family or home environment or health or physical activity or education or whatever it may be. There may be an area that's lacking because I'm devoting so much of myself into one area that it creates an imbalance. Yeah. So recognizing that we are hungry, but helping my clients to identify where that hunger is actually coming from.
Well, I can do that, and I don't keep anything much in there that's going to be bad for me. I mean, I'll do tangerines, grapes, and watermelon because I know that's satisfying and it's not the worst thing in the world, you know, rather than cakes and cookies and stuff like that. But the problem, and we were talking about this, I was talking to Mike about it, is getting enough food.
Absolutely, and not just enough food, but enough nutrients, right? So many people are worried about how many calories they're getting, and they're worried about their macronutrients, but they're not worried about their micronutrients. You know, they're not worried about their amino acids. They're not worried about their gut biome, which is everything, right? And I'm learning now. So a lot of scientists have, it has now been uncovered and proven that our gut is our second brain. It too has, I mean, I can go on for hours here and I'm just now scratching the surface, but I'm looking forward to moving into learning more about how our gut is our second brain, because it does have neurons that actually carry conversations back and forth to our brain. And so if someone is suffering from mental illness or, you know, bipolar, manic depression, anxiety, panic disorder, these things, hyperactivity disorder, that can all be shifted by balancing the gut biome, by balancing the gut flora, by balancing the connections from the neurons in the gut to the neurons in the brain. And there is so much there. I'm very briefly just touching on that, but it's a huge world of it, and that's really the basis of functional medicine. And so I'm really looking forward to my upcoming courses. I'll be in school for the next few years, continuing my education towards functional nutrition and functional medicine, and learning how to heal the brain and how to heal other autoimmune issues and chronic disorders through food and through the connection of the full body system and food and exercise and psychologically.
Let's talk about digestion, how important that is, because I know that it starts in the mouth.
Yes.
We were just talking about that at lunch. You meant chewing your food and getting the enzymes in your saliva to digest the food, so it goes down to your stomach and it comes down a little bit more digested and easier to digest in your stomach, right?
Correct. Yeah, correct. So imagine, like, okay, so as a competitor, I can speak to this, and this is something that I've actually created a program around for my competitor clients who are having issues with digestion, who feel constipated, who feel like I just can't choke down another bite of chicken. Yeah. Well, the problem is that a lot of us, if we are competing, we also have lives to attend to, and so feeding ourselves is almost a full-time job on top of going to the gym, on top of running a family, on top of running a household and these things, right? And so, and maybe possibly having a social life, and so we race through the meal, and our mind is not connected to the meal, and there's so many aspects to digestion and ingestion, right? And so if I don't chew my food and I'm not paying attention to my meal and I'm just kind of chewing, swallowing, you might as well take your gut, take your stomach, open the door to your stomach and just shove the food in and expect it to do its job. The problem is that we've lost the ability to connect to our meal because we're always in such a rush, and it's almost expected for us to be in a rush. Yeah. And so when we're not connected, our mind's not involved in the meal, therefore it hasn't started our cephalic phase digestion, it hasn't started our digestion process by producing saliva, right? And in the saliva is the digestive enzymes. And so it's like, okay, yes, you can take digestive enzymes to help with breaking down meat, like bromelain and things like that. But when it comes down to it, your teeth are there for a reason, right? And if you're having dental issues and chewing issues, they suggest that, and you're having gut issues, I highly suggest looking into getting the teeth fixed and chewing the food or breaking it down somehow, or using softer foods that you can break down, so that way your body can actually absorb all the nutrients from the food. Because it doesn't matter if you're getting in all these calories if your body's not able to assimilate the nutrients, and that does. It starts in the mouth. You have to break it down. Try chewing 30 times is what they suggest. Not just chewing 30 times, but taking a breath, unlike what I do when I talk, but taking a breath between bites, really getting the oxygen down into the digestive system so that the blood and the oxygen can work to feed the digestion process.
We were told that as kids, 30 bites, chew your food slow, but chew it well and then swallow it. Don't just gulp it down. And so many people today, even adults, they eat on the run. They run to grab a quick sandwich from Subway or somewhere, get in the car and eat it, and they're on the go.
Right.
And they just stick that thing down. I've seen people sit down in 30 seconds, they're done with their meal.
Absolutely. And when your mind's not involved in the meal, then you wonder why an hour later you're like, God, I'm starving, but my stomach hurts, right? And it's because your stomach's full, but because your mind wasn't processing the fact that there were certain flavors, certain textures, certain tastes, right? If it's not engaged in the process, it's not going to remember that it was there. It's not going to remember being nourished, and it's going to still continue to seek that nourishment from something and somewhere else.
Well, when you're training for bodybuilding, you're on a high protein, low carb diet, so you're basically hungry all the time.
Absolutely.
And you want to assimilate all that you're taking in. Then you have your junk day, and the junk day is like a killer because your body can't digest that all.
It doesn't know what to do.
No, it doesn't know what to do. It takes this in and says, okay, what am I going to do with it? You know, it's like not the healthiest thing in the world. In fact, bodybuilding is not really healthy anyway as far as the diet.
And we were just talking about that at lunch as well. Is like, I had clients coming to me, they're going, oh my God, I want to look like you, I want to be healthy. And I'm like, okay, do you want to look like me or do you want to be healthy? Because it doesn't coincide. Right. It does not coincide. If you look at back, I think one of my favorite physiques that I had personally was when I was competing for Chris Minnis' show, Fergno Legacy, and it was a Pro-Am show out in Palm Springs. And I loved that show. And I was coming on, I hadn't been doing really any, I wasn't doing injections or anything like that, but I had done like a 6-week run of Anavar, low dose, 10 milligram a day Anavar, and people laugh when I tell them that because they're like, oh, we're doing 50 or we're doing 100. And I'm like, well, my thing is I'm competing for a plastic trophy. Like, maybe if I end up getting into the pros and that's something, maybe I would have considered it. But I actually got away from competing because I knew, a quick snippet of that, I was on stage, I was competing in figure open, and a woman had just come off from doing 35 and plus masters to jump into my lineup. And I had it on everybody in my class except for this woman. And mind you, I'm gonna guess she was in her late 40s, beautiful physique, definitely a lot of mature, good quality muscle. And so we actually battled for first and second, and they put her in first, and they put me in first, and then they put her back in first because I couldn't hold my pose. I just wasn't, you know, it was like my 4th or 5th show. I had not practiced posing enough to be able to hold my pose, and she took it, and she got it, and she deserved it, and she looked beautiful. But I was so pleased with the fact that I could see her scars on her hips from injecting for God knows how long, to still be an amateur and to be fighting an amateur for first place who's barely running anything, who's just started in this game. And I thought, I don't want to be doing this in 15 years, injecting myself for a plastic trophy, killing myself, when there's, even when you turn pro, unless you're top 10, you're not getting paid.
That's very interesting.
It just didn't make sense to me anymore. And so I thought, if I didn't get into competing because I loved it and was interested in it. I got into competing because I was working out, because I had gotten off all of my psych meds. I had learned how to balance my blood sugar through food and through exercise. And organically that had happened, and then I learned what I was doing was increasing my natural serotonin, I was increasing my dopamine, I was helping new neurons start firing in my brain, creating new neural pathways, and all of those things. And when I started competing, I started doing these things to look a certain way instead of feel a certain way. And when it became about my physique, all of a sudden I lost that balance. I lost my why, right? My why was to feel okay in my own skin. And all of a sudden, because I'm judging myself the way some judge who I'll never know, who will never matter to me, is telling me I look better or worse than some other girl standing next to me who doesn't know my story, who doesn't have my background, who doesn't know what I do on a daily basis to get where I am. And we're being judged on what our genetic physiques look like.
Yeah, I know.
And it just completely took me away from feeling good in my own skin. And so I had to step back from competing, and I had to really analyze what is going to work for me? What is my balance? What is going to make me my best, complete, fully recovered version of myself? And so that's what I started doing, as I started creating programs to help identify not myself as the expert in the field, but to help identify my client as the expert, and help them to identify themselves as the expert of their own body, of their own health. To learn to connect to themselves and tune into what is working for them and what isn't working, regardless of what social media or the health magazine or the latest fad diet is telling you what you should be feeling. Like, what are you actually feeling? What do you actually want? What are your actual goals and why? You know?
On the Anavar wasn't injectable.
It was.
That was?
No, the Anavar was a pill. It was a tab,
I never got anything out of it, but for women, does it work okay?
I felt like, because I also had run clenbuterol before, and I felt like it may have, but I do use growth hormone. I use 1 IU a day, 6 on, 1 off.
You feel that?
I felt it when I came off of it. So I had started using a gel, trying to come off. With my history of needles, it was like preferably I didn't want to be injecting myself on a daily basis, and so. Even though it was a low dose, it was still the whole process of filling everything up and having it in the fridge and not being able to travel unless I had an ice chest, all these things, right? And so even though I was only on a very low dose maintenance type situation, I wanted to try the gel. And the best I felt, honestly, was when I was off of the injections and had just started on the gel. So I was kind of like in that like happy medium zone. But then once I weaned off the gel as well, my body fat percentage went up. I was lethargic all the time. I was tired and depressed all the time. And I realized, like, my hormones were completely out of balance again, and like I really was getting a benefit from the 1 IU a day. And so I went back on it, and I did immediately felt better. I immediately felt a shift. But at the same time, I had also, before that, really started to hone in on my food, really started to focus in on what activities started to make me feel good. And so I had some groundwork to do before it was like, okay, I did all the basic work. I straightened out all my food. I've got a physical activity situation program going that works best for me, but I'm still not quite there. What's missing? And then, and only then, should we look at any kind of pharmaceutical help or supplementation.
When I started bodybuilding, I did some powerlifting, and then I did 1 or 2 shows and competed. And like you said, I'm being judged by guys out there that aren't even bodybuilders. They're just like judging you. Because they might really be like the guy or be in love with that guy or this guy. And I thought, Well, I built my body up to where it is, but I'd rather make money with it than a plastic trophy.
Yeah.
So then I turned to pro wrestling because I knew in the ring, flesh sells, and if you got a good body, the audience likes it, they see it, they cheer for you, and you get paid at the end of the night.
Absolutely.
So,
and you get to have fun, and you get to work with all the guys. You know, how long, when did you first start into the wrestling scene? Like, when you stepped kind of away from bodybuilding into the wrestling scene?
I started bodybuilding in I want to say 60, 61. People know the story. I had a girlfriend a year older than me, and she was homecoming queen, and she lived with her cousins and 2 football players. So they started me working out, and I started to develop myself pretty well. And back then, in those days, living in a small town, they're like all rednecks. Oh, you're getting too muscular, too big. I said, but isn't that the point, you know? And so I started to build myself up, and my father had gone in for heart surgery and passed away. And he got me involved in wrestling. He used to take me at night. And then I was playing in a rock band, and I started thinking about, well, I built myself up. I need to do something else. And then in 1965, I met some wrestlers at the YMCA in Bakersfield and asked them about getting in the business. And they said, come on down to LA and train with Johnny Mae Young. She's the women's champion, and she'll tell you if you're good or bad. So it worked out that I was good. And they started booking me after 6 months of training every day, driving back and forth 2 hours each way. And I put my time into it, and I'd come home, go to the gym, and then I started working at nights in the ring, and I played in the band on the weekends, and I worked out in the morning, and it's like, it became a whole deal. But back then, steroids weren't really predominant. I had D-ball, and that was about it, and it did put size on me. I mean, I needed the size because these guys are 250, 300 pounds, and I was like 250 and 220. So the promoter says, you need to put more weight on, look like a wrestler. I said, I don't want to look like those guys. They're like fat cannonballs. I like what I look now, and this will bring money in. Just watch me. So that's why I turned to that.
Yeah. Yeah, and you did. And you made a whole career out of it.
Yeah, it worked out fine. My mom was against it because she didn't want her boy to get hurt. And I got hurt plenty.
She came around, though.
Well, on her deathbed, which at 97, she was almost gone. And I said, tell me one thing before you go. Was it okay if I wrestle? She says, I said, good. Can you loan me $100? Now she finally got in. Her and my grandmother were telling everybody, my grandson, my son, he's a wrestler. He's on TV. And at first they did not like it. It was not a career they wanted me to have.
So let's go into that a little bit, because that's something I touch on, and I find to be, you know, a lot of my clients come to me because I'm their last resort. They've tried all the fad diets, they've tried all the personal trainers, which I'm not dissing personal trainers. I actually, you know, am looking for certain personal trainers to partner with, because so that I can send my clients to people who I hold as quality or competent.
No, I understand
right?
that.
But, you know, what happens is, right, the self-sabotage kind of comes in. Like, we have this idea, like we want to do this thing, and then our friends and family come in and they're like, no, I don't really want you to do it. You know, your husband or your wife or your mom or your dad or your brother or your best friend comes in and they say, especially this happens to a lot of competitors, you know, oh, aren't you doing, you're getting a little crazy with this, or you're doing a little too much, or whatever they're doing, shifting away from what everyone in their circle wants them to do. Why do you think, even though your mom didn't want it, maybe there were some other people kind of saying, yeah, that's not a good idea, what made you decide that it was a good idea anyway?
You're going to like this one. I have a mind of my own. But then again, aren't we supposed to have a mind of our own? Whose mind are we supposed to have?
Absolutely.
And I had said that I chose a path. I just posted something about that I have a wonderful future behind me because it made me what I am today. But thank my parents for letting me choose the path that I wanted.
Yeah.
And so I did, and I proved that I was right. I didn't listen to anybody. I used to have friends still I grew up with. Why would you want to do that? Why don't you move back here and sell cars like we do? And no, I'm happy with what I do. I've not regretted one move in my life that I've ever done. It's always been positive. And I'm a very positive person. I mean, I'm limping around. You see me how I walk on this leg. Yeah. And it's just knocking the shit out of me, but I just keep going. I like a crippled cockroach that somebody stepped on.
Maybe spinning in circles, but you're still going.
I'm still going, man. I'm still going. And you got to keep moving. You got to keep moving forward and think positive. And I try to eat right, like you say. And I look at myself in the mirror, and am I happy with myself? Well, I don't like the fact that I got older, but we all have to get older. You know, and the birthdays come around. And someone asked me the other day, when's your birthday? I said, July. They said, what year? I said, every year.
Right? Absolutely.
Yeah, and it doesn't stop. But when it does stop, I'll be dead. So I wanted to keep going. But, you know, you do the best you can for your age. I get a lot of people that write in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, and the guys who just started training again, and they don't know what to do. And I try to help them because they're lost. They just don't know, where do we pick it up where we left off, and how do we do it?
At the beginning, right? You just start at the beginning.
Go back to basics.
Yep, absolutely. And I think that that's so important. Like you said, though, like, like, follow your intuition, listen to your gut, trust yourself,
Yeah.
you know, follow your dream. Just, you know, there are going to be naysayers, there's going to be people that tell you, you don't know what you're doing and you're crazy, but if you just keep putting one foot in front of the other, keep staying positive, keep believing in yourself, you know, regardless of if the doctors tell you, you know, you should really be resting, you really shouldn't be going to the gym, you really shouldn't be doing this or that, you know, you have to listen to yourself, you have to know what works for you, you have to, or like, you know, you said it yourself, I was down for a week, I won't do that again, like if I can help it, you know.
I had 3 different cardiologists that tell me that you have AFib. I've had AFib for 20 years. Big deal. I go on blood thinners. It's not hurting me. I don't even feel it. You need to take this. You're going to die. You need to take this. I said, really? I said, how do you know when I'm going to die? You don't know. I said, I looked on my birth certificate and there's no expiration date. So basically, I'm free to go. So I sat my new cardiologist down. He was lecturing me before. I said, sit down. I'm going to talk to you man to man. I don't care if you're a doctor or who you are. This is how I live my life. This is what I do. This is how I feel, and this is how I feel good. Not taking those drugs for my heart because they're making me sick, and I can't even function when I'm on them. I'd rather take my chance.
Absolutely.
And he says, well, you know, I said, I know what you're trying to do, but you can't give everybody the same medicine. You tell me everybody takes this and then you test them after 3 weeks and then you're going to change the dose. And no, I'm not doing that game. I can't do it. I feel good for what I do. And that's what it is. I mean, I'll be 97 in July and I think I'm doing... No. Well, you actually believe me, didn't you?
No. I was like... What? At first I was like egg in the face, blown away. I was like, wow. I was impressed before, but Jesus, Rick. But no.
No, I
took me for a second.
I'll be 75 in July, which is, it's up there. You know, I mean, my father died at 53, and at 53 came around, I hit 53, I said, that's it, I'm done, I'm going. But my mom made it till 97, so that gives me some sort of hope. And she didn't even follow a diet. She wouldn't even drink water. They're old school. I don't like to drink. It makes me go to the bathroom. I said, so what? That's what a toilet's for.
Yeah.
You drink it and you go and you flush your system and you flush and you flush and you flush and you eat right. You don't live on burnt toast once a day with old coffee.
Apparently she does.
Well, she did, and then she died. I said, you just can't do that. So.
But here's a perfect example. We're not the experts. So for her, that's what worked for her, right? And that's what it comes down to, is she found what worked for her, what she enjoyed, and regardless of what anybody said, what any expert said, what any dietitian, what any nutritionist, what any doctor said, that worked for her. And I think that that's like the biggest thing. And I remember being, you know, God, I was still in rehab, fresh out of prison, right? And I was on like 7 different psych meds. And I'm talking to the counselors like, I can't do this. And the psychiatrists are telling me, you know, you can't get off these meds. It's a stipulation in your parole, or, you know, and you're going to relapse. If you get off these meds, you're going to relapse. You got 18 months max and you're going to relapse. I'm like, who are you? And almost out of spite.
Yeah.
I was like, no, like, you're not going to tell me that. And come to find out, there's so many things around that were so wrong, right? First of all, they're declaring that I'm going to do these things, claiming those things in my life, like that I'm going to go relapse, and they're putting that on me, first of all, which is super messed up. Second, why, yeah, if I don't learn how to cope,
They're generalizing.
Yeah, if I don't learn how to cope, and maybe there is a certain med that I can wean off of and stay on for a little while and then wean off of that. Maybe there would have been a better way to do that if I would have been able to go to my doctor and they would have said yes to doing that for me.
Yeah.
But because they had no faith, they didn't have any understanding of functional nutrition or functional medicine in mental health. And so I'm really looking forward to forging that kind of path and really making that a common knowledge thing that, you know, if your kid's got 2 choices, getting on Ritalin or getting expelled, you need to look at functional nutrition. You need to look at balancing that gut biome, because there's something going on in his gut that's causing that imbalance in the brain chemistry. And I couldn't be more impressed with some of the information I've been, you know, taking in, the content I've been learning through. I'm actually going through Functional Nutrition Lab with Andrea Nakayama, and she's got an incredible program called Full Body Systems. And it really dives into the connection between, you know, figuring out what works for our own individual bodies.
I had a doctor on here, and he told me, he's been on a few times, that the pharmaceutical companies expect him to write so many prescriptions a month.
Absolutely.
That the people in your area are writing this many, you're only writing this many, you got to boost it up or you're going to lose your license. So wrong.
One of the with my coach, we talk about, you know, what are some of the obstacles that might come up getting in the way of me taking some of my action steps during the week that we set up. And, you know, it comes up like, what about in a year from now? What may some of the obstacles have been that came up? And when I'm going to talk to doctors, how can I come up against when, and these are really bad numbers, they're not real numbers at all, but if they're making $100,000 a year from their medical practice and they're making $500,000 a year from the pharmaceutical companies, like, why in the world would they reduce their prescribing methods, you know, and instead of... and focusing on functional nutrition, first of all, because they don't have the schooling for functional medicine. They have to go back to school for functional medicine, because today's it's it's just a really
everything
unfortunate...
boils down to a pill, but it does get back to the functional medicine, nutrition, and what you're eating, and doctors have no clue.
They don't.
No, if I tell them what I eat and I go, oh, that sounds good. I said, I'm eating like 6 eggs a day, yolks and all. And my cardiologist said, well, that's okay. I said, I'm telling you it's okay. You're not going to get a heart attack from the yolks. You're not going to get fat from them. It's
and
good
there's
fat.
so much conflicting evidence of that, and I really think it all comes down to, some reasons, for some people they can't eat eggs because they're allergic to eggs. Like, have you ever thought maybe you're just allergic to eggs? And so if the study's done on half the people are allergic to eggs, eating eggs is going to be bad for them, right? So it's really coming down to getting your blood work done, finding out what your food sensitivities are, figuring out how to manipulate a food program for yourself around those food sensitivities. Because if you have sensitivities to food and you're eating those foods, it may not show up as anything like like diarrhea or like, indigestion or anything like that right away, but it is causing an imbalance somewhere in your body, whether it's your brain or any of your systems.
Or just being tired.
Or just fatigue, low energy, mood disorders, all that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Can we bring Mike in here?
Yeah, please do.
Will you come in here, Mike?
Sure. Want to switch me out?
No, I'm just going to have him stand behind us. Yes. Behind every great woman is a great man. This is Mike. This is Jennifer's boyfriend, and we've been friends for a long time. How long have you guys been together?
5 years.
Yeah, I think.
This seems to be about the limit.
Yeah.
We'll see.
At least for me.
He's made it this far. And no one else has.
5 years is the finish line. No, you're proud of her, aren't you?
Very proud of her. She's extremely intelligent. She's seriously driven and a pain in my ass.
Well, they all are.
Yeah, right.
We all know that. But we put up with it anyway.
Yeah.
So we were talking about training and training heavy and watching our diet. You were saying you don't train heavy like you used to, and you can't put down food like you used to. And I think as you get older, this just happens.
Yeah, it just does. I just don't think your metabolism just slows down no matter how lean you are or whatever. You just don't require the amount of food you did in your 20s and even 30s.
No.
I think I seen a decline around 40s. And, so, I mean, you just, like Jen says, you got to listen to your body. You got to find out what works for you.
Yeah, that's why I get those senior meals at 5 o'clock for half off. Now, I went to eat the other day at a burger patty and eggs, and the same place we went, the waitress said, you want your meat over medium? I said, yeah. She said, how do you want your eggs? In an Easter basket. That will work for me. It's just hard, and a lot of, and you're how old?
I'm going to be 50 next month.
All right, so as you get older, and a lot of you guys write in at that age, say, how do I get back in shape and how can I maintain muscle size and all that? It's difficult.
Yeah.
It's tough. I mean, you got to be diligent. You got to make sure you're getting in your protein. I mean, even back from the early days of bodybuilding, not as early as your days, but almost the golden era in the 80s and 90s. We believed in protein and fats and minimal carbs, what you needed. So that's always how I've kind of done it, and I just make sure I get my nutrients from food, plenty of protein, plenty of vegetables first and foremost, because that's what I need to be me.
I'm not a big vegetable eater. No, I just don't really care for them.
It's hard. Then we got to figure out some way for you to get your good fiber and
I have the super greens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I figure it's better than nothing.
Way. That and you said you were taking the Metamucil and stuff too. Yeah. That fiber is just such an essential part of making sure fat. Like I think that Mike touched on that. It's a huge part. Now I'm not big on all of your calories come from fats, but your brain needs fats. Essential fatty acids is so important to healthy cognitive function.
Yeah.
And I think especially as we age, I'm trying to get my dad to get away from eating a pound of Starlight mints every night and maybe switching over to something he can dip into. That I don't know if you guys know the holy guacamole. They're these little individual things, and it's just avocado and garlic and onion and salt and pepper. And
you know why they call it holy guacamole?
I don't know, but
because it's made of Swiss cheese with holes in it.
Oh well, either whatever they do with it, I love it. And just getting him to eat some kind of good fats and get those in to try and.
You're talking about chocolate mints. I had about a dozen of them one night before we were waiting in line to have sushi, and I had the chocolate mints and sushi. Mm-hmm. Never do that again.
Yeah. Oh, you can't. It ruins everything.
Oh my God, it's just disgusting. But Metamucil, and people laugh at me because I say I take it. And they say, "Oh, you're old. That's why you take it." No, you can take it any age.
Well, you've taking it 20 years.
I take it 20 years. Twice a day.
I have a motto for that: start your day off right and just keep it moving right along.
Yeah.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for making this long trip out here and taking me to lunch and talking about all this stuff, because it's really important that people know it.
It is.
It is important, Rick, and I'm grateful that you have a platform to be able to help share that.
I'm sitting on the platform right now.
Yes.
It's killing my butt. Where can people reach you?
I'm actually on Instagram at Fit Mind Body, the letter N Spirit, Fit Mind Body and Spirit. And then my email is missjenhenry@gmail.com. So MISSJENNHENRY. I'm working on my website, jenhenry.com. And other than that.
When will that be ready?
Probably by the end of, we'll be gone half of April, so probably by the end of May, I'll have that, beginning of May, I'll have my website and platform up and running.
Oh, that'll be nice to see.
Absolutely. So.
Well, thank you guys for coming, and thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned for more Rick's Corner coming up next week.
Thanks,
I'm taking
Rick.
the rest of the weekend, I'm going to go see a movie.
Thanks, Rick.
My pleasure. Bye, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the video brought to you by Old School Labs. Use my discount code DRASIN12 on the link below at oldschoollabs.com. Hey everyone, now you can have the Gold's Gym logo drawn by me, the artist Rick Drasin. Personalized and made out to you and signed by me to frame and put on your gym wall or wherever you see fit to do so. It's a piece of bodybuilding history. It will never be duplicated again. It's the largest selling icon t-shirt logo in the world. And I'm the guy that drew it, and I will draw it for you. Just go to my website, rickdrasin.com, and order there. You can pay through PayPal, and it'll be sent out right away. And be sure to watch Rick's Corner for all the videos on bodybuilding, nutrition, fitness, pro wrestling, and anything that suits your interests as far as getting physically fit and being the best you can be from the golden era of bodybuilding.
He's the equalizer, baby. See you next time.